lowly House Democrats, how will the head of their party, the outgoing president, man the ramparts during this challenging and fraught, peaceful transition to fascism?
President Biden is in Brazil, where he became the first American head of state to visit the Amazon rainforest. He went there to highlight the dangers of climate change and the need to turn away from fossil fuels.
What the
And we're proud of the fact that we've defeated more House Republican incumbents than they've defeated House Democratic incumbents.
We did flip 3 House seats from Republican to Democrat and gained back almost all of those that we had lost in 2022.
Yeah, almost is doing a lot of work in that sense.
Jon Stewart just took the gloves off, and MSNBC felt every hit Jon Stewart isn't letting up. And this time, he's going straight for the jugular. In a no-holds-barred follow-up, Stewart doubled down on his savage critique of MSNBC, ripping into the network for its relentless hypocrisy and non-stop stream of misinformation. He torched them for their obsessive smear campaign against Donald Trump, calling out the blatant bias and shameless spin. It wasn't just commentary, it was a full-blown takedown, and it lit up the media world like a firestorm. If you're here for raw, unfiltered truth that pulls no punches, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Republicans are playing chess and the Democrats are in the nurse's office because they glued their balls to their thighs. The election that we just had was a repudiation of the status quo, an overly regulated system that is no longer responsive or delivering for the needs of the people or their beloved beheaded squirrels. Oh, R.I.P. Peanut.
Jon Stewart set the stage, then lit MSNBC on fire. Before Jon Stewart unleashed his flamethrower on MSNBC, he laid the groundwork with precision. For years, networks like MSNBC and much of the mainstream media handled Democrats with kid gloves. They refused to challenge policies, question failures, or demand accountability. The result? A toxic echo chamber that stifled dissent and silenced voices within the party. Under Biden's administration, that atmosphere only intensified. Speaking out became a risk. Fear of backlash locked the party into a kind of groupthink, where breaking ranks meant exile. Meanwhile, the GOP, operating without the protective cushion of legacy media, honed its message. Sharper, tougher, and more disciplined, Republicans used that edge to build momentum. While Democrats were busy avoiding offense, Republicans were out there winning hearts, minds, and votes. And when November rolled around, the payoff was clear. That's the uncomfortable truth Jon Stewart was trying to hammer home. Coddling power weakens it. Real strength comes from challenge, not protection, and the media's failure to hold the left accountable may have cost them more than they realize.
Republicans exploit the loopholes. Democrats complain about the norms over and over and over, and it has ghastly consequences. Remember when President Obama nominated Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court? Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell refused to give that a vote, saying, well, it's only one full year before the election, it's too close. Now, you could make a case that Obama could violate the norm, say the Senate failed their advice and consent, and appoint him anyway, and see whatever happens. Fight.
Democrats played it safe and got burned. The Democrats played it far too safe, tiptoeing around every major issue, terrified of upsetting the status quo or ruffling feathers. In their quest to avoid offense, they ended up standing for, well, almost nothing. Their candidate, Kamala Harris, became a symbol of that paralysis, bland, non-committal, and ultimately forgettable. Meanwhile, Republicans ditched the playbook entirely. They took bold, unapologetic stances on hot-button topics, gender, religion, politics, economics, and made it crystal clear where they stood. Love it or hate it, there was no mistaking their message. Even more strategically, they bypassed legacy. Media gatekeepers by building massive grassroots movements, flipping local elections, and turning key districts red. While Democrats were busy trying to please everyone, Republicans were focused on winning, and they did it with precision and fire. In the end, fear cost the Democrats dearly. Obsessed with playing nice and avoiding risk, they simply didn't. have the backbone to fight the way the moment demanded. And when the dust settled, they didn't just lose, they got outplayed.
To meet personally with President-elect Trump. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Because you said he was Hitler.
While Republicans were busy crafting smart, calculated strategies, like targeting suburban voters through focused grassroots campaigns and door-to-door outreach, the Democrats stuck to a tired old playbook: paint Donald Trump as the villain. In their minds, nonstop demonization of Trump would be enough to sway the electorate and hand Kamala Harris an easy victory. They banked on fear-mongering and negative press to do the heavy lifting, hoping voters would be scared into compliance. But reality had other plans. Rather than isolate Trump, the media's obsessive attacks only humanized him to many disillusioned Americans. The constant outrage felt less like principled opposition and more like political theater, out of touch, overplayed, and exhausting. Moderates and independents, fed up with the elite narrative, drifted toward the Republican camp. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, without a clear platform, bold vision, or inspiring message, failed to energize her own base. There was no momentum, no movement. Just empty rhetoric. In the end, the Democrats' one-note strategy didn't just fall flat, it backfired. Instead of showcasing strength, it revealed a party lacking ideas, direction, and conviction. And that miscalculation sealed their defeat.
About a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets.
Oh, I bet you really laid down the gauntlet, Joe. I bet you walked in there and just let him have it, didn't you, Joey? We've learned nothing! Even those putting up resistance to Trump's agenda don't seem to understand who they're dealing with.
Jon Stewart is exposing the media's double game, and it's blatant. The hypocrisy Jon Stewart is calling out couldn't be more obvious. You don't get to call Donald Trump a fascist, a racist, and the next Hitler on national television, only to later toast him over dinner like old friends. But that's exactly what we've seen from media personalities like Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. For years, they stoked public hysteria, painting Trump as a threat to democracy itself. But when the cameras were off and political winds shifted, suddenly it was all smiles and private sit-downs. No outrage, no resistance, just calculated proximity to power. It was never about principles, it was about ratings, relevance, and protecting their own influence. That's the double standard Stewart is ripping the curtain off. The same media figures fueling outrage are often the ones quietly profiting from it. And guess what? The public sees it now. They're waking up to the performative outrage, the two-faced narratives, and the media's addiction to power masquerading as integrity. Stewart's not just throwing punches, he's holding up a mirror.
End of story.
There was no real primary. Biden ran against Dean Phillips. That's not even a real person. That's a stock photo on the package for a garden hose. It's not a person. It's AI.
If Republicans pulled this, the media would explode. But for Democrats? Silence. Imagine if Republicans had tried to force Donald Trump onto the party without a legitimate primary process.
Proud of the fact that we've defeated more House Republican incumbents than they've defeated House Democratic incumbents.
We did flip 3 House seats from Republican to Democrat and gain back almost all of those that we had lost in 2022.
Yeah, almost is doing a lot of work in that sense.